Hello all, I'm Dr. Neema Bhatt, consultant hematologist, BMT physician, and pediatric oncologist. I'm a senior consultant at Fortis Hospitals, Bangalore, as well as I'm the program director of the bone marrow transplant unit in Bhagwan Mahavir Jain Hospital, Bangalore. I also consult on Helios Cancer and Hematology clinics here in Jayanagar. So, as a hematologist or even as a pediatric oncologist, one of the most common questions we encounter or I have encountered is what are the foods that lead to cancer, or what are the foods that we need to consume to prevent cancer? It's a very generalized question, but I have sort of taken up this topic of food or nutrition and cancer and hematology as sort of a series for this month. So I will break it down into different parts in about 2 or 3 different parts and release probably one video every week or 10 days or so. But all of this is going to be in relation to nutrition and cancer or hematology. Why so? So September 1st week, so 1st to 7th September is celebrated as National Nutrition Awareness or National Nutrition Month. So this is sort of my duty being a hematologist and an oncologist to spread awareness about what is the relationship between nutrition and cancer or nutrition and hematology. So as I mentioned, one of the generalized questions we get is, does nutrition really play a role in causing cancer or in preventing cancer? The simple answer to that question is yes. Nutrition definitely plays a huge role because of 2 reasons mainly. So no matter what happens, food plays a huge role in our day, whether the way we start our day, what we take in our midday meal, what we consume as we go, during our normal activities as part of our daily activities, what we consume before we go to bed. So this is something that we sort of encounter multiple times in a day. Not only that, this is one of the most modifiable factors. So lifestyle and nutrition, as I have mentioned in one of my earlier videos, is a very modifiable factor. What we eat, what we consume, how we spend our day, these are the factors that we have in our control. There are, of course, some factors that are non-modifiable, like our genetics, what sort of a family we are born into, and what sort of exposure we have in the environment, whether it is smoke or chemicals or toxins. These are some things that we may not have complete control over. But what we put into our body, what we take as part of our food or nutrition, these are absolutely controllable factors, and it's up to us to sort of bring it under control so that we do the best for our body as much as possible. So as per one of the recent medical journals or papers, there is about 39% of risk in both men and women overall, in the world, of being diagnosed with cancer. What does this mean? So in any person's life, there is about a 39 to 40% risk that you might be diagnosed with cancer. That is almost 50%. So there is almost like a 1 in 2 chance of somebody being diagnosed with cancer, maybe just short of 50%. The latest medical studies from British Medical Journal shows that lifestyle factors, which is mainly food and physical activities and exercise, are one of the most important and modifiable factors in either the causality or that is either in causing cancer or in preventing cancers. I would again stress on the term modifiable because this is something which is under our control and we can modify it and change, the presence or occurrence of cancer. So a 2019 British Medical Journal study showed after comparison between different populations that ultra-refined or ultra-processed foods have a direct correlation or connection with causation of cancer. What are ultra-processed foods? So we talk about processed food, refined foods as a very sort of generic or broad term, but what exactly are ultra-refined or ultra-processed foods? These are foods that have been processed over and over multiple times after they have originated. Say, we all know that maida or all-purpose flour comes from wheat, but does wheat naturally lead to all-purpose flour or maida? Not really. So it has been, processed multiple times, refined multiple times over and over again, and a lot of nutrients have been removed from it before you actually get to either maida or all-purpose flour. So most of your processed foods or refined foods, they lack vitamins, they lack fiber, they usually contain a very high level of fat or sugar or what they call, high fructose corn syrup. So these are all different derivatives of naturally occurring ingredients, but they have been processed or refined to a very high extent, and this high level of processing or refining is what actually can be harmful to our bodies. So what is there on the list of this ultra processed or ultra refined foods that we consume as part of our daily diet? Anything ranging from highly processed packaged bakery products, like even it could be even like a loaf of multigrain cake or low sugar cake. But if it has been made, say, a couple weeks ago, and it has been infused with preservatives and put inside a packaging so that it can last for 2-3 weeks, that is also part of your ultra processed foods. Just because it says multigrain, that does not mean that it is not processed. It has been processed and modified in such a way with the addition of chemicals or preservatives, which can make it harmful for the body. Snacks that are packed in sugar, so sugary cereals. You have a lot of snacks, especially your microwave popcorn, which again have a lot of preservatives, and they are sort of prepared to be on the go, very easily available snacks, but a lot of processing goes into that before they are made easily available or easily processable foods that can be taken without much of a preparation. As I mentioned, sugary cereals, fizz drinks. So most of your soft drinks, most of your even fruit juices have a lot of extra added sugar in them and have a very high sugar content, which is usually not good for your body tissues. Deli meats, so what we call pre-sliced or pre-packaged meats, not the ones that are available in your grocery stores, which are freshly sourced and not very processed, but I'm talking about either strips of bacon, strips of chicken, or beef that have been pre-processed, sliced and packaged. There is usually addition of sugar or salt or preservatives to make them to give them a higher or longer shelf life so that they last longer, but then they end up being more harmful to the tissues or our body. There has been, it's been shown that there is a 12% increase in the overall risk of cancer and almost 11% increase in the risk of breast cancer just by consumption of overly processed or refined foods. Along with that, we know that red meats or smoked meats increase the risk of, they've been shown to have a direct correlation with increased incidence or risk of cancer, especially smoked meats or very spicy foods, salted fish that usually, as part of sushi, has been increased consumption of that has been shown to increase the risk of stomach cancer and intestine cancer. So that brings me to the next part of the question. So what kind of foods should we consume to prevent cancer? Is there any food that we can we can consume to avoid all these negative effects and to make sure that you're not at a higher risk? Yes, so start with the thought process that you consume food that is naturally processed and has not been modified too much. For example, foods that are very rich in fiber, like vegetables or fruits that are consumed in a raw way rather than being consumed in a canned fashion. Nowadays, you get canned pineapples, you get canned strawberries, you get canned tomatoes. So anything that has been processed or preservatives has been added to make it last for longer in a can is going to be harmful. I would rather recommend you have fresh tomatoes or fresh strawberries or fresh pineapple. Yes, it goes into a lot more work either to procure these things or to process them before you consume them, but it definitely reduces the negative effects that these foods have in your body. Prefer whole foods that are minimally processed. So go for seeds, legumes, as I said, fruits and vegetables. Go for barley, oats, these things that are not processed much, like the husk is not removed, they are not refined, they're not made to appear white and pure. Most of the rice that's available in the market has been polished multiple times over and over again. So try to prefer things like brown rice or red rice that has not been polished too many times. So this will reduce the risk of exposing your body to highly processed food, but also at the same time make sure that you're not deficient in certain things like iron, fiber, vitamin B12, folic acid. So these are all like thiamine. So these are all things or vitamins that are vital for our body that are higher in content or richer in content in foods that are less processed. Avoid things like French fries, potato chips, potato wedges, very heavy pastas, pastries, bakery products, because they've been processed over and over to make them more palatable or more tasty. But in the process, you've lost a lot of nutrients or nutrition in it. There are, of course, recently, there have been a lot of campaigns to prevent advertising of junk foods, especially French fries or potato chips. to the teenagers, adolescents, and children, because this is where your eating habits get set in. When you're children or when you're teenagers, that is when you're exposed to what sort of foods to consume, and these habits continue into your adulthood. So whatever you start doing when you're less than 10 years old or in your teenage years, you are more likely to continue those sort of dietary habits or food habits into your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. So it is very important, being even as parents, to monitor closely what you are bringing home as part of snacks or as part of meals for your children and the rest of the family, because you start them off on the right eating habits, that is going to stay with them for a lifetime and even prevent them from a big disease like cancer. So what are the foods that actually prevent cancer? So this is a theory, but we don't know if it's 100% proved, but we know that antioxidants and phytochemicals play a big role in preventing cancer, just because of a lot of superoxidation will cause cancer. So antioxidant rich foods like your bell peppers, like red, yellow, green bell peppers, or capsicum, what we say, your foods that are rich in phytochemicals like broccoli, like barley, or even things like berries. So strawberry or blueberry, the actual natural fruit and not the canned ones, is what we prefer for people to take, so that it prevents or reduces the risk of cancer by a huge extent. I will touch upon a few more aspects of nutrition and how nutrition is closely linked to our well-being as well as to cancer and hematology in my next coming series. If you have any questions, please do feel free to reach out to me. I'm Dr. Neema Bhatt, hematologist and pediatric oncologist. Thank you.